Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Piper. We are now at the really fun stage of this project. We have drawn from observation several leaves. We have arranged them in an interesting way onto our final composition, and we have gone over all of the lines with a white crayon or with colored crayons. It's really up to you. Now this happens to be the one with the white crayon that I'm using as my example, and we are now ready to watercolor. So for this stage, you need your watercolors. These should have been in your art supply pack. If you have not picked up an art supply pack, please make sure you do so because you do need them for these assignments unless you have watercolors at home already. You will also need a cup of water, your artwork, of course, and I like to keep a tissue handy just in case I get watercolor where I don't want it. You can dab it up. Don't rub it, but you can dab it. Now, if you recall, when we were introduced to this lesson, we were focusing on movement, rhythm, and unity. So I know that I have to have these leaves come together to create a unified composition, but I want a little bit of rhythm in it. I don't want them all to be the same color with no variation. So I'm going to start by doing a watercolor wash, and I'm just going to do one area at a time so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm not going to paint the whole painting in front of you, but I am going to do certain sections. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my brush wet, and for anybody who has never used watercolor before, you have to moisten the paint in the trays so that you know that they are ready to be used. So if you'll notice, I'm adding water into the little trays of paint. I hope you can see. There's my water, and I'm getting my paint. Now, I've decided that I want my leaves to be kind of yellowish orange. So I'm going to take my yellow and I'm going to load my brush. And I'm going to put a little bit of orange in it. And I'm going to brush over it. Now, what happens when you brush over your work is that it gives it a wash of color. So I'm giving my entire area down here in the bottom left corner, I'm giving it a yellow-orange wash. And if you'll notice, everywhere that I put the white crayon, the watercolor will actually bead up on it. So the watercolor will not sit on the crayon markings. So the crayons are acting as a barrier. And if you'll notice, I'm going to let this dry for a little bit, but if I leave all of it yellow now, yellow-orange, there's going to be no variety between the leaf and the background. And that's going to be kind of boring. And remember, your work has to have movement, it has to have rhythm, and it has to have unity. So while we want these leaves to come together, we don't want them all to be exactly the same. So I'm looking at these bottom two leaves. I'm starting down here at the bottom, and I'm noticing they're all yellow-orange. I've brushed in this yellow-orange. So now I want to go in and I want to create areas of coolness to counterbalance and to create rhythm with the warm areas. So I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so now I hope that I'm going to get this in frame. I'm going to focus on just this one area of the leaf, and I'm going to leave the leaf alone, and I'm going to look at the background. Now right now the background is a yellow-orange, just like the leaf. And if you'll notice, I'm going to be dipping my brush into the water, and I'm going to pick up a green and a blue. I hope you can see it in the frame. There's my green, there's my blue. Now, Remember, we have this waxy surface that's built up. So now when I take the blue and I go right next to the leaf, you'll notice the blue is not going into the leaf at all. It's staying outside because I built up a barrier of wax so that it would not go in. Now, you'll notice this is just a thick bluish green outline. So I'm going to dip my brush in clean water. I've rinsed off all of the paint, and now I'm just going with clear paint, and it spreads it out. It causes, the water causes the watercolor to move and to spread out so that it blends in with the background. Now, I'm going to do the same thing here. This one has a little more blue in it. Let the water do its job. In other words, dip your brush in clear water and see how it spreads out. Look at how beautifully it's spreading out. So now what I have is I have a warm area, that leafy yellow gold, and it's now next to a cool blue-green area. And that is a lot more interesting to look at. So if I come over here to the other side of the leaf, and I do the same thing with my blue and my green, I'm going to dip my brush. Oh, I hope you can see that. I'm going to move it up just a smidge. I'm going to dip my brush in clean water. Move it out of the way. And just by putting clear water right next to it, it causes it to bleed down and blend in with your background. So now I have this wonderful play or rhythm that I'm creating by putting cool next to warm, next to cool. So I have this blue-green that goes to the gold, and then it goes back to the blue-green. Remember, if you want an area to bleed out or to spread, you simply put clean water next to it, and it will act as a spreader. So, I know that this is a very short demonstration, but hopefully it will give you some ideas on how you want to add color to your composition. Now remember, this one has white crayon, and I had another example in which I used blue. So that's going to look totally different when I watercolor it. So I hope that you have enjoyed this really short demonstration. Please remember that you do have a tissue in case you get paint where you don't want it. You just dab it up and then repaint over it and you'll be fine. Enjoy painting your composition. Remember, your focus is on creating movement, rhythm, and unity. So you have to keep the images similar, but you have to vary the temperatures so that it goes from warm to cool to create a sense of rhythm. Okay? Enjoy painting. Have a great day.